How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about how Guilty Gear Strive compares to your favorite game. I've gone ahead and split the video up into chapters so you can click on whatever specific game you want to take a look at. We're going to start off with Street Fighter V. This is a game I'm most familiar with. In Strive, it seems as though you aren't as handsomely rewarded for anti-airing on some characters such as Axel, and it feels as though you anti-air, 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 maybe you drop one and the opponent gets around a 60% damage combo. I think this is very similar to Street Fighter V, and that the risk reward for jumping in seems a little bit off. In the lower ranks of Street Fighter V, you might anti-air somebody 4 times, but that 5th jump in is going to connect, and they're going to hit a combo to where your HP is going to end up at a similar place. This is because you don't get a combo off of an anti-air, and they do off of a jump in, so they're just going to keep jumping in. DP anti-airs also yield a minimal reward in my opinion. After playing Giovanna, I could DP a Ram over and over again, but if I drop one, I'm eating 60%, and we're about even on HP. So there's not really a big risk, similar in Street Fighter V, there's not really a gigantic risk for them to just keep jumping in, because they're just going to eat a little bit of damage at a time, and eventually they'll die to anti-airs, but the chances of them hitting one before you drop one is sometimes a little higher. The neutral is a lot more jumpy in this game and airborne than you're probably used to due to double jumps and air dashes and being able to block in the air. So if you go to air somebody, they can block it, and that's something you might not be used to. The movement in this game might feel a little more foreign to you as a Street Fighter player due to the addition of air dashing and other character-specific techniques. However, characters like Nagoriyuki make things feel a little bit more slower, and you might feel a little bit more at home playing him because he does not have an air dash. Instead, he has a lot of long-range, hard-hitting normals, which lend themselves more to a grounded game if that's something you like. This is a big topic too, the netcode. While Street Fighter V does have rollback netcode, you are going to feel the difference between a good, well-implemented rollback and Street Fighter V rollback, which makes you kind of sad at the end of the day at what Street Fighter V could have been. Let's get into the pace of the game. It is considerably faster than Street Fighter V depending on what character you're playing against. Characters like Milia, Giovanna, and Leo can play at a very fast pace, and the game really plays as fast as they want it to. While characters like Nagoriyuki, Sol, and Kai might play at a speed you're more used to just because they're more well-rounded characters with Fireball game and other tools that are present in Street Fighter as well. Some characters you might want to try out based on archetype. If you're more of a rushdown kind of player, so you like playing Karen or Urien, Giovanna is a motion character who's rushdown, while Leo is a charge character that's rushdown. And Milia, I would say, would fit a rushdown playstyle, but it's going to be very different than what you're used to because she has 2 air dashes and she's very fast and very oaky and mix-up heavy. Some zoner characters that you could take a look at are Axel, Faust, and Ram to an extent. Ramlethal is a zoner, but she's more of a mid-range zoner, and you can play her a couple different ways. So if you're more of a pure zoner type player, I would suggest sticking to maybe Faust and Axel. If you're a big body player, you like playing grapplers like Zangief, Potemkin is probably your choice. And well-rounded characters like the Shotos would be Kai, Sol, and maybe Nagoriyuki. He's a little different, but he does play a more fundamental game in my opinion. Next game I want to talk about is Dragon Ball FighterZ. 2H in this game works as an anti-air for most characters, however 6P is going to be your universal anti-air. In DBFZ, if you 2H something like a Super Dash, you get a big combo, but in Strive that doesn't really seem to be the case just yet. For most characters like Giovanna, you can get a combo off of 2H anti-air, but it's nowhere near as rewarding as 2Hing a Vanish or a Super Dash. Other characters like Axel don't really get as much, and I think DP anti-airs also yield a minimal reward. The neutral in this game can be played primarily grounded or airborne due to a lack of experience or maybe a lack of big reward off of anti-airs. I've seen a lot of players jumping more in neutral than I'm used to. However, I think DBFZ players might be more used to this. Some characters excel on the ground or are just forced to stay there like Nagoriyuki, and some excel in the air like Milia, who has 2 air dashes and really fast movement. If you rely on tools like Super Dash to get around projectiles or to just get around in general, I think you're going to have a tougher time adjusting, but figuring out your character's options for these situations will definitely break those habits. I think that Dragon Ball players also have a great advantage in the department of meter management. Having to manage 7 meters and figure out which combo to do to kill, such as like a 3-3-1, where you're burning all 7, or choosing between level 1 and 3, builds up a great habit of always being aware of your resources. In Strive, there's one meter that fills up to 100, but it can be burned in a numerous amount of ways, right? Whether that's super or the various Roman cancels. I think the characters in this game are a lot different than any of the ones in DBFZ, so I suggest just picking one that you think is cool and trying them out. The general archetypes are going to be your well-rounded characters like Kai, Sol, and Nagoriyuki, rushdown characters like Giovanna, Leo, Mei, and Milia, grapplers like Potemkin, or zoners like Axel, Faust, and Ramlethal to an extent. Ramlethal is more of like a mid-range poke character in my opinion, but those are your general archetypes that you might want to stick to. And the last game we're going to talk about today is Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. In this game, 2H works as an anti-air for most characters, but 6P is usually what you're looking for. Anti-air combos in this game, if you can get them, are not as damaging as they are in Grand Blue, so you might see a lot more jumping than usual, just due to a risk-reward type situation. The neutral of Strive seems a lot faster than Grand Blue depending on what character you're playing against. Kai, in my opinion, can be played very similar to Catalina due to the range and conversion options, but you might get overwhelmed by the pace of some characters like Milia or Giovanna who can close gaps and pressure you very well and much more than you're used to. It may take some time to get used to the speed of the game. The next section we're going to talk about is combos. This is mostly for beginners who just started on Grand Blue. I think the execution in Strive might be a little more demanding than what you're used to if you're starting with Grand Blue Fantasy Versus as your first game. While there are normal motions like DP and quarter circle, there are no auto combos, so mashing a button will not yield a series of attacks. Also, the window for linking attacks can be a little tighter than you're used to. It might feel a little hard at first, but a little practice will go a very long way. And don't feel as though you have to do the most optimal and high damage combos at the beginning, take it at your own pace. For example, there's a Giovanna Infinite that I saw on Twitter, but I'm not going to go practice an Infinite. Mostly because it's going to be taken out of the game, and because execution-wise, I just don't think I'm there yet, right? So that's just an example for me. Some characters you might want to try out is Catalina / Grand players would maybe like Kai or Sol just because they're well-rounded characters. Catalina players would probably gravitate more towards Kai, while the Grand players would like Sol. Charlotta players would probably enjoy Leo or Mei. They're both rushdown charge characters. And then rushdown based motion characters would be like Giovanna, Milia, and then zoners would be Axel, Ram, and Faust. Ram is more of like a mid-range zoner. You could probably play her a little bit how you play Catalina, so you could give her a try too. Grapplers would just be Potemkin at this point, right? I think all the Ladiva players would really enjoy playing Potemkin. Anyways, I think that's it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, if you guys learned anything, or if this helped in any way, please consider subscribing, and I'll talk to you next time.